Cuba is a country that has been immersed in highly controversial political situations, and for over 6 decades, it has been governed under the leadership of the Castros. Several generations of Cubans have lived with repression, lack of freedoms, and human rights violations. Only a few have access to privileges, products, and services denied to the rest of the population. But currently, without the Castros in power, how has Cuba evolved? Today, on Extraordinary Walks, we will explore the situation that Cubans face with their current government. Who is Miguel Díaz Canel? How did he come to power? Miguel Díaz Canel Bermudez is the current president of Cuba and the leader of the Communist Party of Cuba. He came to power in 2019, succeeding Raúl Castro as president and assuming the position of secretary of the Communist Party of Cuba, the only legal party, in 2021. His election did not take place through direct means, as deputies of the National Assembly selected the country's leader, an indirect election process that has been in place since 1976. In 2023, Díaz Canel was re-elected for a second term with an overwhelming 97.66% of the votes from the deputies in the National Assembly of People's Power. Despite being the first Cuban leader in over half a century without the Castro surname, Díaz Canel has remained loyal to the party and has sought a gradual opening of the country without abandoning the communist system, aiming to update the Cuban Revolution through innovation and science-based management. Initially seen as a symbol of generational change, Díaz Canel's leadership remains faithful to the principles of the Cuban Communist Party, maintaining historic leaders in key positions. His approach is to modernize the Cuban system but within the bounds of socialism and central planning. The Cuban government has attempted to radically change the island's economy and has undertaken unprecedented reforms since the triumph of the 1959 revolution led by Fidel Castro, known as task ordering, a program to make the economy more productive and efficient. In 2021, the list of permitted activities for self-employed workers was significantly expanded, largely freeing them from dependence on state or government employment. Before this measure, only 127 approved activities existed, but they increased to over 2,000. It's important to note that despite the reforms and the guidelines established in 2011 under the Guidelines for Economic and Social Policy, not all measures have been fully implemented, and some reforms have been reversed due to political changes, such as the arrival of Donald Trump to the presidency of the United States in 2017. This raises questions about the effectiveness and sustainability of the ambitious economic reforms undertaken by the government among the Cuban citizens. In 2021, the Cuban government embarked on a monetary reform that marked a significant change in the country's currency exchange system. For decades, Cuba had maintained a fixed exchange rate of $1 for 1 Cuban peso. However, this artificial fixing of the exchange rate had significant economic repercussions as it incentivized the demand for dollars and made it challenging to have this currency available for imports and international transactions. The monetary reform eliminated this fixed exchange rate, allowing the value of the dollar, in terms of Cuban pesos, to fluctuate in the market. As a result, inflation in Cuba increased significantly, with a rapid and widespread rise in prices of goods and services, especially in basic commodities such as food and medicines. Additionally, the Cuban currency, the Cuban peso, substantially devalued compared to the US dollar, making imports more expensive and reducing the purchasing power of the population. Although the government established a new official exchange rate with a range of 24 to 120 pesos per dollar, in the black market, the dollar's quotation remained much higher, reaching 185 pesos per dollar. This gap between the official rate and the black market rate reflects the lack of confidence in the Cuban currency and has led to illegal or unregulated transactions. The monetary reform, while seeking to eliminate economic distortions, has had a significant impact on the Cuban economy, creating significant challenges such as inflation and currency devaluation that directly affect the Cuban population and their ability to access goods and services. According to political analyst Arturo Lopez Levy, the head of state has managed the transition between the historical generation and the one he represents, but he has become trapped in his slogan of being continuity. He has proclaimed himself as a president of continuity when what the country is asking for and even the agenda of the Communist Party itself is an agenda of continued change, concludes the analyst. So, what is the current reality of the country? The current situation in Cuba is extremely challenging. In fact, the country is facing its worst economic crisis in the last 3 decades. Diaz Canel attributes this Cuban crisis to the maximum pressure policy applied by the United States, which includes sanctions and restrictions that have significantly impacted the Cuban economy by limiting travel, remittances, and sanctioning the transport of crude oil. But the main economic and social challenges affecting Cuba today are undoubtedly shortages, inflation, and the emigration of Cubans to other countries in search of better opportunities. Are these the fault of the United States? The truth is that the Cuban economy is bleeding. The price index increased by 70% in 2021 and 40% in 2022, according to official figures, but analysts have revealed that it could have reached 3 digits. Between April 2022 and April 2023, inflation was 45.4%, with food being the component that has contributed the most to this increase, with a 70% rise. With the reduction of the ration book, supplies of gasoline, food, medicines, and other basic items have become scarce and more expensive. This has led people to have to wait in long lines to acquire them. Also, the shortage of electricity with frequent blackouts contributes to the difficulty of everyday life in Cuba. The leader has expressed concern about the high migration of Cubans to the United States and has emphasized the importance of maintaining a close relationship with the Cuban diaspora. According to U.S. data, in 2022, nearly 300,000 Cubans entered the United States illegally through the Mexican border. Despite the difficulties, Diaz Canel defends the continuity of the revolution and his commitment to the justice and well-being of the Cuban people, although he acknowledges dissatisfaction for not being able to address the current problems more efficiently. Canel stated the following during a recent interview in Havana with the pan-Arab television channel Al Mayadeen.
I feel dissatisfied for not being able to promote a set of actions that were more efficient and effective in solving those problems. We cannot be part of the politicization of Cuban migration advocated by our enemy, but establish a close relationship with the Cuban diaspora as their homeland respects them. Those of us who are here resisting and building have the support of those Cubans, but not those who have compromised their loyalty. The revolution is the means, the path to achieve the maximum justice and well-being possible.
He expressed, reinforcing his commitment to continuity. What do you think of these words from the Cuban president? With these, we have come to the end of our extraordinary walk today. If you enjoyed it, give us a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more content like this. Until next time.